I wasn't looking for anything unusual. Just another clear desert night, the kind that makes the Milky Way look like it's dripping across the sky. I'd made a habit of sitting out on the back deck, my old Meade LX90 pointed up at Cassiopeia, same as always. Ever since retirement, stargazing's been my rhythm. Cool night air, coffee in hand, and a sky so wide it makes you forget the world's falling apart down here. It started as a flicker, nothing fancy, just a bright dot, barely brighter than Polaris, and a little west of the Andromeda Galaxy. I thought maybe it was a flare, or a satellite catching the sun. It didn't move like one, though, just sat there. Still, patient. Almost too still. I logged the coordinates out of habit. Azimuth, 342. Elevation, 58 degrees. Didn't think much of it. These things come and go, especially this time of year. But the next night, it was there again. Same time, same brightness, same unnerving stillness. That's when I noticed something else. Cassiopeia had shifted, as stars do, but this dot hadn't. It wasn't matching the sky's rotation. I chalked it up to atmospheric refraction, maybe even eye strain. But a week later, after checking from 3 separate positions around my property with time-lapse photos, there it was again. Not just in the same part of the sky, but in the same relative position to my house. Like it was staying in line with me. I shook it off, told myself I was being paranoid. I'd seen strange things in the sky before. Hell, I worked on satellites for 3 decades. Sometimes you catch glimpses of things you're not meant to notice. Classified birds, low orbit relays, edge case phenomena. But they move, they drift, they obey physics. This didn't, so I gave it a name. Not a technical one, just a gut thing. I called it the Watcher. I tried to disprove it. That's how I handle the unknown. Like an engineer. You don't chase phantoms. You test. You replicate. You rule things out until only truth remains, even if you don't like the shape of it. So I drove, packed the scope, the tripod, and 3 nights' worth of supplies. Told my neighbor Ed I was heading to the Grand Wash Cliffs for a little solitude. I didn't mention the real reason, not yet. Too easy to sound like you've lost the thread. Maybe I had. Night 1, I set up camp 40 miles east. High ground, open view, clear skies. And there it was, the Watcher. Same place in the sky relative to my new position. Not in the constellation, not part of the grid. Just hovering, still, watching. Night 2, I hiked farther. 10 miles into the backcountry with only a compact tripod and an old set of 12 by 80 binoculars. Tracked the sky at intervals, marked everything against time. Same result. Night 3, I changed hemispheres, figuratively speaking. Took a late-night drive toward Flagstaff, where the stars wheel different overhead than they do in my backyard. Set up again outside the Lowell Observatory, like old times. And wouldn't you know it? The damn thing moved. Not with the stars. Not with Earth's rotation. With me. Subtle, but unmistakable. I kept the lens locked on Andromeda, expecting the Watcher to fade out of view with my new coordinates. Instead, it curved slightly south. Just enough to remain visible in my direct line of sight, no matter how far I moved. That's when the feeling started. You know that sensation when you think someone's staring at you? That crawling tension between your shoulder blades? That impulse to turn around, even when you're alone? I felt that. Not in town. Not around people. Only when I was looking up. Only when I found it again. The Watcher didn't feel like a celestial object anymore. It felt like a presence. Like it had patience. Like it was waiting for something I hadn't done yet. And here's the part I haven't told anyone. I stopped sleeping. Not from fear at first, from curiosity. From the growing itch that if I turned away, it might move again, or worse, stop hiding altogether. I don't know how far this thing is. Could be 20 light years. Could be 20,000. But I know this. Distance means nothing if it's already looking back. There's a rhythm to stars, an elegant predictability. Even the most violent ones, neutron hearts spinning hundreds of times a second, still follow rules. That's the comfort of it, really. That's what always drew me to the sky. So when something breaks the rhythm, it breaks you a little too. I was back home. 3 days after Flagstaff, I'd cataloged everything. Sky coordinates, sidereal time logs, movement deltas. I even pulled archival satellite data, trying to confirm if anyone else had seen what I was seeing. That's when I noticed the absence. The watcher was gone, not faded, not hidden behind cloud or atmosphere. Gone. I stared for an hour, thinking I'd made a mistake, recalibrated everything, used different lenses, even climbed the water tower behind my property for a cleaner line of sight. But the sky was empty. Too empty. It felt like walking into a room where a person had been sitting every night for weeks, and now the chair's still warm, but they're not there. I waited all night. Nothing. By dawn I was exhausted. Half of me thought it was finally over, that I could get back to normal. The other half knew that absences are sometimes louder than presences. I slept most of the next day. Heavy, dreamless sleep, like my body was catching up after weeks of keeping vigil. When I woke, it was past sunset. I stepped outside, rubbed my eyes, lifted the telescope. It was back. But it wasn't just back. It was closer. I could feel it. No redshift, no Doppler data, nothing I could record or prove. Just a visceral certainty in my gut. The watcher had blinked, and in that blink it had moved. Not like a satellite burn, not like stellar drift. It had changed position with surgical precision, skipping the in-between, like the universe had been paused, and someone rewrote its coordinates before pressing play again. I stared at it until morning, and I swear to God, it felt like it was staring back, more now than ever. Not passive, not inert, present. Sound doesn't travel in space. That's the first rule of astrophysics they drill into you. No air, no medium, no sound. It's comforting, in a way, the silence of the stars. But what they don't tell you is that silence can carry weight. Silence can ring like a bell if you're the one listening hard enough. It happened on a Thursday night, a week after the watcher returned. I'd upgraded my old CCD sensor, borrowed a better one from the astronomy club down in Prescott. I wasn't hunting for proof anymore. I just wanted clarity. I needed to know what I was seeing, whether it obeyed any rule left in the book. And that's when the signal started. Not a real signal, not in any official sense. It wasn't on radio or microwave or infrared. It didn't show up on my software or the little spectrum analyzer I'd duct taped to the eyepiece housing. But I heard it. Only when I looked directly at the watcher through the scope. Not through binoculars. Not on a screen. Just through the old glass. A hum. Low. Faint. Impossible. It was like tinnitus, but not in my ears. More like it was coming from behind my thoughts. A pressure, rhythmic and slow, pulsing like a heartbeat in the stone of the earth itself. I yanked away from the eyepiece and it stopped. Tried again. It came back. On the third try, I held still and listened. I let it crawl into me. And soon the hum began to change, splitting, layering. It wasn't just vibration anymore. It was voices. Or something like voices. A chorus echoing in impossible directions. Some words almost formed, but just beyond grasp, like hearing language in a dream and forgetting the moment you wake. I don't remember any of it clearly, only that they were many, and they were deep, and they were not speaking to each other. They were speaking to me, or maybe through me. I don't know. I woke up on the floor an hour later, scope knocked over, nose bleeding. The watcher was still in the sky, still quiet, still patient. But now I understood something terrifying. It wasn't shining, it was transmitting. I spent the next 3 days chasing every database I knew. Simbad, Gaia, Sloan, even the old IRAS surveys. I pulled up deep field plates, cross-referenced every anomaly near Andromeda, punched in every variant of right ascension and declination I could remember. But it wasn't there. Not in the star catalogs. Not in the infrared scans. Not in the sky as far as modern astronomy was concerned. It simply didn't exist. Except it did. I'd seen it. I had logs. I had images. I had a nosebleed and a thrum still ringing somewhere behind my spine that hadn't gone away since I looked through the eyepiece. The Watcher was real, but the world had no record of it. So I turned to the fringe, not something I'm proud of. I spent my career designing propulsion systems that obeyed physics to the decimal. I don't truck with fantasy, but desperation makes scholars out of madmen and madmen out of engineers. I posted a question anonymously on an old astro forum known for attracting conspiracy theorists and deep sky amateurs with too much time. A few replies joked about UFOs, one mentioned sky glitches, another claimed to have seen something similar from Tasmania in 2006, but couldn't find the photo. Then I got a private message. Just one line. You're not supposed to look back at it. No username, no traceable IP, just that. The message vanished an hour later. It made my skin crawl. Because I'd felt that, when I looked through the scope too long, like I was trespassing. Not just seeing something forbidden, but becoming visible in return. A star catalog is a map of what we know. And if something's not in the catalog, it's either new or deliberately missing. And what if the only thing keeping us safe from it is our ignorance? There's a kind of trust we place in the horizon. No matter how lost we get, the sky is the anchor, the vault above the chaos. Stars wheel, moons rise, suns set. It's the one constant in a world that spins without asking our permission. But what if something in that sky stopped spinning? What if it refused? I tried not to look. I really did. For 2 days, I left the scope covered, turned off the tracker, let the dust settle across the lens like it was a coffin lid. But I couldn't stop watching the sky with my naked eye. At first, I told myself I was just looking to make sure it was gone, that it had passed like a comet or faded like a supernova. But it was still there, lower in the sky now, hugging the same arc, holding the same place relative to me, not to the stars around it. I ran a test. I set up a simple rig, fixed camera, timed exposures, tracked stellar movement over 6 hours. Every star in the sky trailed in wide, clean arcs, except one. The Watcher didn't move. It remained exactly where it was when the exposure began. Not just still, fixed. Like it wasn't part of the celestial sphere at all, but something superimposed onto it. Something closer. Something looking in. And that's when it hit me. We assume the Earth turns. The stars turn. The galaxies drift. And we are merely observers spinning on a rock. But this star, this thing, wasn't subject to motion. It wasn't part of the dance. It was outside it, looking in from some place where time didn't slide forward like it does for us. It wasn't a star. It was a lens. And I was on the other side of it. If there's one thing I trusted more than my scope, it was parallax. It's the principle that lets us measure the distance to nearby stars. Look at a star from one side of Earth's orbit, then again 6 months later from the other side. The shift, tiny as it is, tells you how far away it is. Simple trigonometry, unbreakable geometry, the oldest trick in the astronomy book. So I waited, marked my calendar, logged the angle of the Watcher nightly, waited for Earth's orbit to swing me 6 months across the solar system's other shoulder. And when the time came, I made the observation again. Only it didn't shift, not even a fraction of an arcsecond. The stars around it had moved, just slightly, just enough to measure. But the Watcher hadn't. It had stayed pinned to the exact same patch of sky, from 2 entirely different vantage points in space. That's when my blood ran cold, because there are only 2 explanations for that. 1. It's so unfathomably far away that its distance dwarfs the observable universe. But that's impossible. It's too bright, too detailed, too present. 2. It's not in space at all. Not in our space, anyway. I began drawing it out, mapping the angles, trying to calculate some kind of hyperbolic depth. But nothing fit. The math broke down in the margins like it was rejecting the act of measurement. I had a horrible thought then, sitting in my shed, half drunk and surrounded by papers. What if parallax doesn't apply because we're the ones moving? And it isn't. Like a painting hung on the inside of a rotating cylinder. No matter where you stand inside, it's always there. Always watching. Not distant, just unreachable. Or worse, a fixture in a larger room we don't know we're in. There's a moment in any long observation when you realize you're no longer the observer. I felt it 2 nights ago. I was out on the ridge just west of my property, brought only binoculars, no tech, no tracker, no monitors, just me, the sky, and a growing sense of wrongness I couldn't shake. I didn't even look directly at the watcher that night. I tried to ignore it, focused on other parts of the sky, traced the Orion belt, counted Messier objects, did everything I could to pretend I was still in charge of what I was watching. And yet, every few seconds my eyes would be pulled back, like a reflex, like a muscle memory I didn't know I had. There it was, not flickering, not pulsing, just aware. That was the word that came to me in that moment. I didn't write it down. I didn't whisper it. I didn't even think it. Not really. It was just given to me, like something passed between us, wordless, clean. I stood up, started walking back to the house. Didn't run, didn't panic. But I knew. I knew that whatever was behind that light, beyond that shape in the sky, it wasn't passively waiting. It knew I saw it. It wanted me to. I didn't sleep that night. The house felt too small, too lit, too watched. I turned off every light, unplugged everything, sat in the dark and listened for something that I didn't know how to hear. I started to wonder how long it had been there. Not the watcher, me. How long had I been visible to it? Weeks? Years? My whole life? It's not about telescopes anymore. Not about geometry or light curves or parallax. It's about contact. But the contact is one-sided, like a deer realizing it's been in the crosshairs not for seconds, but seasons. Last night the light moved. Not the watcher itself? No. That stayed where it always does, fixed like a thumbtack in the curtain of the universe. But behind it, there was something else. At first I thought it was just atmospheric distortion, a shimmer maybe, heat waves from the day's dry wind rising off the ridge. But the air was still, cold, crisp, the kind of clarity that makes the Milky Way crackle across the sky like spilled salt. I was watching the watcher with my scope covered, just with binoculars, just out of habit now. But this time, I saw depth, not brightness, not color, movement, something behind the light, shifting, twisting, like the beam wasn't emanating from a star at all, but projecting outward, like a flashlight aimed through smoke. And within that smoke, there were shapes. I can't describe them. Not organic, not mechanical, not even geometric in any way that fits human terms. Just motion, rippling in dimensions I don't think we're supposed to have access to. I blinked. Thought I'd imagined it. But then one of the shapes moved in a way that corresponded, not to me, but to my reaction. As if the act of recognizing it made it shift again. Sharper, more visible, like it had stepped forward to acknowledge the handshake. That's when I understood something I hadn't dared believe before. The watcher is not the thing itself. It's a mask, a filter, a means of hiding the actual presence behind a tolerable point of light. A cosmic peephole disguised as a star, so we wouldn't run screaming into madness. But now that I've seen behind it, even just once, I can't unsee it. It's watching, but it's also studying. And the light isn't there for illumination. It's there for containment. Whatever's behind it is pressing against the edges now, pacing behind the curtain, watching me watch it. And it's learning. I've stopped looking through the telescope, not because I'm afraid of what I'll see, but because I'm afraid of what will see me back. I've been noticing strange things in the house. Subtle at first. The bathroom mirror fogging in patterns that don't match the room's airflow. Dust collecting in rings around the sink where nothing has been set. The living room clock ticking in sync with something I can feel behind my ribs. But tonight something changed. I caught my reflection blinking out of sync with me. I'd just come in from the porch, washed my face to clear the night chill. I looked up expecting to see the usual. Bloodshot eyes, thinning gray hair, bags from too many sleepless nights. But the man in the mirror didn't blink when I did. He lagged just slightly. Half a second, maybe less, but enough. And when I stepped closer, he didn't. He stayed perfectly still, expression flat, eyes unblinking. Then he smiled, just for a breath. A twitch at the corners of his mouth that felt borrowed, like it didn't belong to my face, like it had been stitched there to practice human movement. I fell back into the tub, hard, knocked the towel rack loose. By the time I looked again, it was just me. Same tired face, same thinning hair, but I knew. I knew something had looked out through the mirror, and it wasn't just curiosity anymore. It was involvement. The watcher isn't just overhead now. It's echoing in smaller ways. Refracting through surfaces, testing boundaries, mimicking, adapting. I think whatever's behind that false star is trying to find a way through. And the mirror? It wasn't showing a reflection tonight. It was showing a projection. I've started noticing shifts, not just in the sky anymore, in the house, in the things I thought were stable, fixed points like furniture, clocks, and the echo of my own routines. It began with my coffee mug, same one I've used for years, blue ceramic, little chip on the lip from when I dropped it back in 2014. One morning it was gone. I tore the kitchen apart looking for it. Thought I'd gone senile. Replaced it with a backup, tried to forget. Next morning, it was back. Same chip, same coffee stain ring inside, sitting in the exact place it should have been. But the backup mug was gone now. And then it escalated. The bookshelf in my study was reversed. Top shelf on the bottom. Encyclopedias where the astronomy journals used to be. My bed had been rotated 90 degrees overnight. I hadn't moved it. I couldn't have moved it. It's heavy as sin, and I live alone. There are patterns forming now, subtle displacements. I measured the hallway from wall to door, 15 feet. Next day, it was 16.5. The doorframe was half an inch narrower. My shadow stretched wrong against it like the light knew more than the architecture did. It's like reality is sloshing, as if space is bending inward around me, twisting to accommodate something that's not supposed to be here. Or maybe I'm the one who's out of place. The world around me adjusting itself like a body rejecting a foreign organ, or preparing for one. I started drawing the distortions on graph paper, trying to map a logic to it. But the more I sketch, the more it resembles something else. A pathway. Not a road, not a tunnel, something deeper, dimensional, like a trail being laid down through my house. Through me. Something's coming through. It's not just watching now. It's aligning. I don't remember falling asleep. I remember sitting in the armchair, late, surrounded by notebooks, trying to make sense of the shifting house, the impossible geometry, the faint echo of that infernal light bleeding through every window. Then I woke up in the hallway, standing, eyes open, no memory of how I got there, and above me, where the ceiling should have been, was sky. Not paint, not plaster, not the usual drywall seams. Sky. Black and endless and full of stars, but not our stars, not constellations I know. These were jagged, misplaced, moving when they shouldn't, a firmament slanting downward like it was draped across the roof of a stage set. And there, too bright, too familiar, too wrong. The Watcher, not just outside now, not distant, here, burning silently at the center of my hallway ceiling, as if the entire house had been inverted around it. I reached up, without meaning to. My fingers tingled. The air was thinner than it should have been, sharper. Every breath tasted like ozone and static. Then the walls began to ripple. Not shake. Ripple. Like water disturbed by something moving just beneath its surface. The furniture flickered. For a heartbeat I could see through it, not into other rooms but into other places. Stone chambers, glass tunnels, structures lit from within by impossible geometry. I stepped back, the sky blinked, the ceiling returned, and I was just a man again, standing in a hallway. But something's changed. I feel it in the bones of the house. Whatever boundary kept the Watcher out, or maybe kept us in, has been breached. It's not just visible through lenses anymore. It's arriving. Or worse, we're the ones being moved closer. There's no phrase in the human vocabulary for what I saw last night. I was in the crawl space. Don't ask me why. Something had been rattling down there, and part of me thought it was just old pipes, maybe mice. But I had this feeling, like the house was hollow in a way it hadn't been before. Like something inside was reverberating. I crawled until the air grew cold, colder than the rest of the house. The kind of cold that carries silence with it. Heavy, like even sound was afraid to move. That's when I saw it. The vent panel at the far wall had been pried loose. Not broken, unlatched, deliberately. Behind it, a strange blue light shimmered. No source. Just ambient glow, like moonlight on black ice. I leaned forward just far enough to look through the gap. And what I saw wasn't insulation, wasn't brick or stone or any part of my foundation. It was sky. But from the side, not from beneath like a dome overhead, not from above like something you gaze at through a telescope. From the side, as if the sky had been rotated 90 degrees and embedded into the wall like a slice of another dimension. And it was moving, not the stars, not the light, the fabric of the sky itself, turning in on itself like a clock spring, vast and fluid, with pieces of reality floating inside it like sediment in a stirred-up river. I saw structures, briefly, geometries that should collapse under their own logic, buildings with edges that turned inward, then looped, windows that looked into one another. At the center of it all, too distant to grasp, yet too close to ignore, was a shape I recognized, the Watcher. But it wasn't a point of light anymore. It was a hatch, a fixed point in that sideways sky, a central hub in a realm we were never supposed to approach, let alone see, something ancient, something patient, and I swear, through the slanted light of that impossible horizon, I saw it open. Just a sliver, a blink maybe, or a door, and behind it, something aware. The moon is gone. I know how that sounds. I can hear the insanity in my own voice as I say it aloud into this recorder. But I've been watching the skies for 50 years. I know the moon. I've charted its phases like a sacred ritual. I've seen its craters cast shadows so sharp I could trace them with a pencil. I know the moon, and it is no longer there, not hidden, not behind clouds, gone. I waited all night, from sundown to dawn. Nothing, no crescent, no glow, not even the faintest edge grazing the horizon. My lunar tracker, an old program I wrote myself, predicted a full moon rise at 9:03 p.m. I checked the sky a dozen times. Nothing came. I even drove out of town, climbed the ridge, cleared line of sight from every angle. Still nothing. But the watcher? It was still there. In fact, it seemed brighter, like its glow was compensating for something. Like the absence of the moon had created a vacancy in the firmament, and the watcher was rushing in to fill the role. I went back through my logbooks, every date, every photo, hundreds of images of the moon, all stored chronologically, but the most recent ones, the ones from this year, have changed. They now show a different shape in the sky, a blurred, overexposed glow. A round object, yes, but with no features, no Maria, no shadows, just whiteness, like a placeholder. And here's the thing that makes my bones ache. I remember seeing the moon just 3 nights ago. I remember it clearly, but my camera roll doesn't. My logs don't. Even the tides seem off. Subtle, but wrong. I called Ed down at the lake. He said the water line's been behaving strangely, sloshing in long, silent rhythms, like something stirring beneath it. The moon hasn't just gone missing. It's been edited out, replaced, forgotten. And I don't think I'm supposed to have remembered at all. I don't know what day it is anymore. Time has softened at the edges, melted into the seams of my house, my body, my mind. Clocks tick, but they don't move. The sun rises in the wrong part of the sky. Shadows bend toward the light. My own reflection trails behind me by seconds. I haven't seen another human in over a week. Ed stopped answering. The town below flickers like it's on a loop, sometimes there, sometimes not. Power still works, but the hum from the lines sounds different, thinner. But the watcher remains, brighter now, closer. Or maybe it just feels closer because there's nothing left between us. No more boundary, no more lens, no more pretending it was just a light in the dark. It was never a star. It was never distant. It was waiting. And now, I think, it's finished waiting. Last night I stepped outside at dusk and found the sky. Folding. That's the only word I have. Not collapsing, not breaking. Folding. Like a map being creased back into some ancient, unknowable shape. Familiar constellations twisted until they overlapped, mirrored, disappeared. And the watcher hovered at the crease point, like the button on a lid, like the seal on a door. I stood there as the wind died, as sound itself hushed, and I felt it, not in my ears, not in my bones, but in my memory, as if something was reaching back through time to meet me in this moment, not as a visitor, as a witness. And then it spoke, not in words, not in sound, in knowing. It showed me, not visions, but implications. Possibilities stacked like mirrors. Realities peeled back like gauze. It wasn't looking at me. It was reading me. And I understood then, with a clarity I didn't ask for. The watcher was never watching Earth. It was watching me. I was the experiment, the aperture, the way in. And now that it's done watching, it knows the shape of our world. It knows how to enter. And I'm the bridge it used to cross. I was never meant to find it, but I did. And now so will the rest of you. Rest.